We're here with Coach Paul Glass, the 2019 Class AA Coach of the Year. After winning a second state championship, we're looking forward to an exciting 2020 season, which is just right here upon us. Coach Glass, congratulations on winning the Class AA Coach of the Year award. This is second time in 3 years you've won the award. Was this latest one as special as the first?
I don't know. I mean, I think that, those awards are nice and all, but that's really not what you do. It's just kind of if you have a good year, it's kind of a byproduct of having a good season. But anytime you're recognized by your peers as having a good year, it's special to you. So, I mean, I appreciate it, but that's really not why we do it. But it is a really good honor. I do appreciate it.
You've now completed 20 years here as a head coach at Jeff Davis, over 400 wins, 18 consecutive playoff appearances. That's quite a record of consistency. What's been keys to having that level of success?
Well, I think the biggest key is you have quality people around you. I mean, if you don't have quality people around you, coaches, administrators, board members, community, if you don't have that element in place, it ain't gonna happen. It don't matter how good of a coach you are. You've got to have all of those kinds of things in place, and a lot of places and a lot of people don't see how important that is. But if you don't have those kind of things, then there's no way you can establish any kind of consistency. My mind goes back to when Tom Osborne was at Nebraska, and he had such a long run. And I remember reading an article one time about his assistant coaches and the length of time that they were there with him, and he attributed a lot of credit to the fact that they had so much consistency within their staff. And I think that has been a huge deal here with us and our baseball staff. We've had hardly zero turnover in our baseball staff within the last 20 years. And I mean, when the consistency, when the kids know what they're going to get year in and year out, and it's going to not change, and it doesn't require them to have to reset and reboot and all those kinds of things, it helps, and it helps them to slow down, and they can kind of know what's coming in the next season, and I think that's a big piece of the puzzle right there.
Last year, you only had one senior on your team. I think most people felt like that team was maybe a year away from being a serious title contender. At what point during the season did you realize that you had a chance to make a run at the state title?
I don't know. You think about the season as a whole, and it kind of runs together a lot of times because you are so busy. But I keep going back. For some reason, I keep going back to the week where we played Tifton and Moultrie. And those are two quality programs. And when we went to Tifton that night and we played, it was as businesslike and as professional, I guess you could say. And we played really good in all aspects of the game. And I think that was the first real glimpse we got of the potential that this team had. And now would we be able to sustain that, and would we be able to continue to get better? Because as the games get bigger, you've got to play better. And could we respond in big spots and big games? And I think after that weekend, on the way home, or after that week, on the way home from Tifton, I thought, man, this team is getting better, and if they continue to get better and we play good and we stay away from some adversity, we could have a special year. And as we continued on through the season, some of those things started to happen, and it's one of those things where you get to playing good, and you just keep riding it as far as you can ride it. So.
Let's go back to that game in Bleckley County that decided that series in the playoffs. Had to be a shock to you and your team to give up that many runs that quick. A team that was really strong in pitching all year, but yet you never really saw anyone ever saw a sense of panic among the team. What was the mood like in the dugout?
I mean, I think when you have a little bit of a mountain to climb, when you have games like that, and every team that wins a championship, it don't matter what the sport is, they're going to have a game like that. Whoever wins the national championship in football tomorrow night, whether it be LSU or whether it be Clemson, they had a game this year where they kind of were not at their best, and they had to win when they wasn't playing at their best. And that happened to be our game this year. And looking at the guys in the dugout during that, when we were playing that series and in that particular game, there wasn't a sense of, it was more a sense of, okay, this is what we're going to have to do. That's not the way you would dial it up, but that's the way it's going to have to be. And there was not a time where I sensed there was a time, I will say this, there was a time where it was a little bit of, well, dadgummit, here we go. This is a little bit of a deal here, but it wasn't a sense of, well, it's over. I never got that sense of, well, it's over. This is a done deal. It ain't gonna happen. And that's one, going back to the Tifton. That was one of the questions: is could we continue to play that way? Even after you have a little bit of adversity, and that was some adversity that we had. And it's one of those things where I think it made us better. I don't know that if we don't have that adversity, do we win the state championship? Because you got to have been pushed to the brink, and that was about as close to the brink as we've ever been. And
being the defending state champions and returning almost that entire team intact from last year, you're going to enter the season with a big target on your chest. How are you and the staff preparing for that challenge?
Well, we started talking about it a little bit in the summer. And, I hate, as an Auburn fan, I hate to keep going back and using Alabama as an example, but Nick Saban had a little thing, an interview he had one time, and he talked about they had just won the national championship, and he was having his first meeting with his next year's team in the spring. And he basically told them, he said, that team that just got through playing had a great year. But this team that's sitting in here right now has not done anything. You haven't had a practice. You haven't played a game. You haven't done anything as a group. And that's kind of the mentality we took going into the summer is, yeah, we graduated Caden Lewis, and he was a good player for us, and he was a good senior, great team player, and he was a big loss. But he was one guy, and you return everybody else. So, how this, even though that's not a big difference, I guess you could say, but it is different. The dynamic is different this year as far as we've never been in a situation where we return as many players as we return coming off of a year like we had last year. So the feeling around our team is unique. I'm not saying I don't like it, but I mean it's different. And I guess the biggest question is, how are we going to handle that? Are we going to listen to everything everybody says and hey, everybody's going to turn around and tell you how good you were based on what you did last year? But you haven't done anything this year yet. And the teams that we're going to play this year, they don't care about last year. I mean, if anything, they're going to be more motivated because of the season that we had last year. So no matter what kind of season we have, if we want to have a good season and get to where we were last year, it will be as hard or harder than it has ever been. And we got to be willing to embrace that and accept that. And our thing was, let's just keep our blinders on, keep our head down, stay humble, and work hard. And, carry yourself with confidence, but not to a point to where you kind of looking over your shoulder at last year and say, well, look what we done last year, because that team, I don't care what happened last year. So we need to have the confidence from last year, but we don't need to think that we don't need to work in order to get back to where we want to be this year, because it is 2020, it isn't 2019. That trophy says 2019, and last time I checked, this is 2020. So it is a new year, and hopefully our guys will attack this year as if we came up just a little bit short last year, and want to be as hungry to get there as we've ever been. And it will be hard and it will be difficult, but that's what makes it worth it if you can get there in the end, I think.
Well, Coach, thank you for coming and chatting with us today. Congratulations on being named Coach of the Year, and best of luck for the 2020 season.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.